My name is Selena Maddox, and I am a business owner. My company is Lead, Live, Learn LLC, and I launched 1 year ago after leaving a 10-year corporate gig with Accenture, which is a global management consulting firm and system integrator. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm excited to share what I have learned and what I have been doing in the virtual reality space and the intersection of technology and human resources and learning strategies. So, for the next 40 minutes or so, we'll have 35 minutes of content and a Q&A session at the end. We'll cover the corporate training landscape and the business case for virtual reality, how we're seeing it used and what we're developing in virtual reality for learning, and then assessing our learning landscapes in our organizations and for ourselves. At the end, I'll take any questions that have come through the chat or comments, and I can always refer back to an earlier part of the presentation to assist in answering those. So thank you again for joining, and let's get started. We know that there are gaps in the workplace in terms of talent. Communication has been identified as the biggest skill need over AI over the last few years. And executives agree that soft skills are more important than ever in this age of artificial intelligence. And the C-suite has identified as the number one threat to their business is talent shortages. And we've seen that in our workplaces. So, what does the corporate landscape look like? Uh, every year, $340 billion are spent by companies on employee development and training. This is approximately $1,500 per learner per year. Knowing that information, what does the learning management system landscape look like? Well, that market is $20 billion per year, and that is simply the house that stores the online and virtual reality content that your organizations put your learners through and is tracking their development and their progress. So that's a large piece of the corporate training landscape. And significantly of note, Tailspin, which is a company that does online learning and virtual reality learning, was acquired by Cornerstone, which is a very large learning management system company in last year in 2024 after having raised $15 million in seed B funding. And they're partnering with Meta, who is the maker of the Oculus Quest virtual reality hardware. And there are different versions of that. Additionally, a stark figure includes the lack of trust that is growing in the corporate environment where managers don't have trust, and it's plummeted from 46% to 29% between 2022 and 2024. With a lack of trust and what HR projects at 83%, there will need to be new leadership capabilities within the next 5 years. There is no time to waste to build leadership skills in the way that learners now want to learn. You'll see on the right-hand side a couple of images from one of my virtual reality trainings. This one is onboarding for managers. So, what is the business case for VR or virtual reality? What we've seen last year was a market size of $16 billion USD. And this year is going to be, it's projected to end with 20 billion. If you look at the grid in the middle with the bar chart, in the next 8 years, we're going to five times the market for VR. $123 billion USD in the next 8 years at 2032. So the market is scaling rapidly, and North America is approximately a third of the global marketplace. So the US is the major player here with 171 million people currently using the technology globally and 77 million in the US. And that's an increase of $30 million per, sorry, 30 million people since 2019. An interesting figure that our company has found through research is 91% of businesses have already adopted or plan to adopt virtual reality or augmented reality technology. So it's not an if, it's a when. On the right-hand side, you'll see some images. Apple just released on December 7th their top virtual reality apps of the year, which is an interesting takeaway to read. And in the bottom, you'll see a picture from my recent October 2025 TEDx talk where I talk about the use cases for virtual reality, including leadership skills, including the sports industry, and including the medical field. So, what is the return on investment for using it as part of your training and your learning strategy? Well, PwC has found a 300% increase in confidence about their skills when employees learn through VR versus other ways. In the soft skill category, 67% of VR learners report higher engagement than e-learning, online learning. Gone are the days of sitting in front of a computer and clicking through slides for your learning credit. Training industry has found that the three primary benefits to virtual reality learning include higher satisfaction with the training itself, higher self-efficacy, meaning that you can complete the task that you learned about better, faster, smarter, and higher engagement with the learning, meaning that you are more immersed and more involved in the and active in the learning than rather than passively learning. As discussed in my TED Talk, the sports technical example is amazing statistically when we look at Jaden Daniels, who is the quarterback of the Washington Commanders in the National Football League, who uses VR as a primary training tool, and he does on-field scenarios in virtual reality. And this has resulted in increased accuracy under pressure at 12%, decreased decision making at 15%, and decreased late game performance errors. The virtual reality training has proven so successful with Jaden Daniels that all quarterbacks on the Washington Commanders are now training in VR, along with reports of the Seahawks, the Lions, and the Dallas Cowboys using virtual reality. So, my research has found with 126 survey respondents this year across eight main events that we've hosted at Lead, Live, Learn, top five insights related to virtual reality and learning. Usage means that there have been 50% of respondents that have actually been in virtual reality, put on a headset, whether that is a Meta Quest 2, 3, 3S, Apple Vision Pro, or Lenovo, or Pico, or other. In terms of skill development, 25% have used VR for learning, whether that's soft skills, technical skills, language acquisition, or certain gaming. Interest wise, on the soft skills category, about half of respondents would be interested in taking soft skills communication and or a leadership course. Probably one of the more interesting factoids that became clear through our research this year is that micro learning is the future of learning. 89% of respondents would only spend a maximum of 45 minutes in a training session, and two-thirds would only spend up to 30 minutes of training. This makes learning and development professionals' jobs much more difficult to create succinct learning opportunities that maximize learning outcomes in each individual sitting. The last top insight is the location of desired VR usage, which includes at a home and at the office. On my YouTube channel at Lead, Live, Learn, you can watch the 60-second trends in VR training video that shows this research coming out of the events that we've hosted this year. So this speaks to learning needs, whether individually we are upskilling ourselves or organizationally we're upskilling or responsible for the development of areas of the organization or the entire organization itself. When you think about assessing where your people need learning, we like to think about the employee life cycle. At the top level, we know there's a war for talent and that it's trying to hire skills is very difficult. It's a highly competitive market for certain skills, and then there's not so much need for others. Once you bring the talent into your organization, the question becomes, how do I keep this talent and how do I continue to develop them in the ways that my organization needs them to develop in the era of AI? And lastly, when they leave the company, where are they going? And where is talent flowing from and to our company? From a human resources perspective, we can get more granular at the next level down. This is the moment you're recruiting for new talent. Is there a gap in those skills coming on board? And do you need to provide that education at the beginning of their journey with you in the company? Or can it be taught later on in the talent development part of their employee experience? Talent development, as you know, includes on the job learning and formal learning and mentoring and coaching. Where in your organization Is there a need for these individuals to have those opportunities? In the performance achievement cycle, we ask the question, did this individual or did this manager or did this executive perform the way that their job description and what's expected of them come to life? And then finally, in exit management, whether this is voluntary or involuntary, we think of why they left and where they're going. And was learning a part of the reason they left? On the left-hand side, you think through at what level of the organization do you need to focus on? Is it the top tier, the executive leadership skills that need to be focused on? Is it the middle management layer that are more operational and less high strategy level? Or is it the front line, your individual contributors that really are lacking the skills that you need? And is virtual reality a way, a channel to provide this learning across all three levels of the organization? Where is the interest? What is the demand? What is the expectation of your war for talent as you're recruiting and onboarding them into the company? When you think through the level of the organization, then you can consider those particular skills and what would be most suited for virtual reality. Are they technical skills that the employees need? Are they behavioral skills? And or are they functional skills? And across those skills, there is a growth pattern from novice or a new to that skill, intermediate of that skill, or advanced and an expert in that skill. So, is the goal to move your organization at the entire organization level from novice to intermediate in a behavioral skill or a technical skill? You need to ask these questions to understand if virtual reality is a potential match for your needs. Lastly, think through the location of the company. We just mentioned enterprise skill movement, but is there a business unit that's requiring more attention than others? Is it a specific team or department? Um, all of these help you assess your strategy for 2026. I'd love to just introduce to you the training catalog that our company has developed over the last year. And these are 6 courses in immersive learning for leadership skills. The first module is part of the personal leadership course, and it is regarding living more intentionally. You'll see on the screen it's meant for adults and professionals above the age of 18, and the duration is 30 minutes. You can see the objectives as well to the right-hand side. We also have Ignite Action and Passion. This means taking the initial uncomfortable steps to do what in your heart you know you need to and want to do. Professional communication covers a multitude of scenarios and simulations to include what are effective communication techniques, and there are 10. What does a bad example of professional communication include, and what a good example includes? And how do you deal with difficult conversations in the professional environment. We use AI agents to walk through various scenarios and learn from the user's experience. From onboarding, we have three levels of the organization for executives, for managers, and for employees. And it's a two-part course. The first takes you through the tour of your office where you meet with agents in HR and IT, and you learn where the parking validation is and how to sign into a conference space. You then go to a conference room and talk through the roles and expectations of you as a new hire in that level of the organization. And then once you've completed the onboarding tour, you can meet other colleagues in virtual reality in the office before ever stepping foot in it. We have those for executive level, managers, and employees now.